Again, thank you to all of our distinguished presenters. We're going to start today with Lorenzo Macaluso. He's Director of Client Services at the Center for EcoTechnology, or CET, and he's been there since 2000. He's a national expert on business waste reduction systems and commercial energy efficiency solutions. He works with government, foundations, and industry partners to develop award-winning diversion solutions to help businesses and institutions reduce waste, save energy, and improve environmental performance. He has helped develop and oversees CET's Green Business Services, providing waste diversion and energy efficiency information and technical assistance to a wide range of businesses throughout Massachusetts and southern New England. And he began his career at the University of Massachusetts Office of Waste Management in 1997. He has a Master's of Public Health with an environmental health focus and a Bachelor of Science in Natural Resources Management, both degrees from the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Thank you. Oh, before I switch to Lorenzo, you should be able to see up right now a web page. Just wanted to make you aware that we've posted the presentations for today's webinar on this web page. So you can go, if you want to view the PowerPoint slides, you can go to this web page and see both. They're hyperlinked here. I'm going to turn it over to Lorenzo. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just getting the PowerPoint to go to full screen. All right, it's up for me. Terry, is it working for you? Can you see the first slide?
I can see your first slide. Thank you. Looks
Perfect.
like it's
just
good.
wanted to confirm. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar, and thank you to NERC and NEWMOA for putting this together. Two really great organizations that we are all based here in the Northeast, and it's great to collaborate on this effort. So I appreciate that opportunity. So we're talking today about opportunities to divert food waste, and especially for donation. And so for a little bit of background on our organization, we are the Center for EcoTechnology. We're an environmental nonprofit organization who's been around for over 40 years. And we've got about 70 professionals on staff that focus on helping people and businesses save energy and reduce waste. And we've been working on the wasted food issue for over 20 years now, and there's been a tremendous amount of energy and momentum and activity to address this, especially in these most recent years. And we're really excited to be able to share the information with all of the audience today on the webinar about some of our experience, how we've seen the marketplace grow, what we know are services available across the hierarchy, but really focusing on here on donation today, and hopefully share some insights that'll be helpful for all the attendees. And as in a way of doing a little bit of framing here, I think it's likely that most of us have seen this, but I think it is important, it's always an important reminder that the issue of wasted food is a significant one. Approximately 30 to 40% of all food that is grown and produced is being wasted in the U.S. And this is a tremendous has a tremendous economic impact, and also a tremendous environmental impact with significant greenhouse gas impacts. But it also has a tremendous human impact, and it is kind of crazy to think that there's so much food being wasted while we have 1 in 7 people across the country that are food insecure and wondering where their next meal is going to come from. And so while this is a tremendous economic, social, and environmental challenge, it also represents a tremendous opportunity to help address some of these issues. To this end, we've had some goals that have been set nationally. Back in 2016, the USDA and EPA set a goal to cut food waste in half by 2030, and definitely supports that goal and is working hard to contribute to addressing that. So while we have some Northeast examples that we'll talk about here today, and there's a lot going on around the country, there's a lot of efforts going on in sort of all corners of the country to make progress on this. And so here I'd like to dig in a little bit on both the hierarchy and use that as a way to explain a little bit of the approach that at least we use in addressing wasted food. So this is the EPA's food recovery hierarchy, and right at the top we have source reduction, which is preventing the food waste from happening in the first place, which has great economic and environmental benefits. We'll be talking a lot here today about feeding hungry people and the opportunities for increased donation. There's also feeding animals and industrial use as an opportunity, which is typically anaerobic digestion and composting, of course. Basically anything to avoid disposal. And I'm going to spend a minute on this slide with it back at the full screen, because the way we approach this, at least, is it's not necessarily a linear process, and our job is to really understand the service providers across this hierarchy, because we don't, the approach that we use, we don't provide any of these services directly. We're not a hauler or a food rescue organization or a composter, but instead we get to know all of those solution providers really, really well, understand their niche, their geography that they serve, what they need to have a good, successful customer, and then armed with that information, go out and engage with the food waste generators, the commercial generators, and basically play matchmaker and help overcome barriers in the marketplace to get more of this activity happening. And so I wanted to share that as a context for how we get our work done, and now I'll keep moving through here and talk a little bit about what we're seeing in terms of marketplace development in the region and nationally. And so policy is really developing. We've got that goal at the national level, but we've also got several of the Northeast states here in the NERC and NEWMOA territories that have disposal bans on food waste. But there's lots of different examples of different types of policy, and that sort of sets the tone in the marketplace. And then we think about infrastructure development. I think traditionally when we thought about the issue of wasted food and infrastructure, we've thought about composting. But as this has really gained momentum, we've seen lots of different types of infrastructure development, including food rescue and food donation as an important part of what infrastructure really is. But there's also food prevention activities and anaerobic digestion. All of that really represents infrastructure. And in the places where there are regulatory compliance, enforcement, we think, is also playing an important role, so that the folks that are complying and have these kinds of programs have an even playing field with those that don't, and it just sets the tone again in the marketplace. And the fourth piece of this puzzle is the role that we happen to play, and there are many others that play this role as well, which is education and technical assistance. So that's that matchmaking that I was saying, and really helping people find solutions and plug in, but also overcoming barriers that are in the marketplace and just raising awareness in general about this issue. While it is our priority, we realize very often that for a food business, this is not necessarily their priority, so it's our job to help make it as easy as possible to find a solution that works for that particular business. And because of that activity, there's been a tremendous amount of growth, and each one of those puzzle pieces that I was just showing can work independently, but when they're working together, we're seeing the kind of growth that is happening right now in the Northeast states. And Vermont has seen about a 50% increase in donated food, and Massachusetts has seen about a 20% increase in donated food in these last few years. And one of the things that's most exciting about that, using the Massachusetts example at least, is that much of that increase has been in the perishable foods, the most highly nutritious produce, meats, prepared foods, that are very, very valuable, in addition to like the more traditionally donated shelf-stable foods. But that's where that increase is really coming from, and that's very exciting and important for the populations that are being served. So with that kind of background and what we're seeing happening in the marketplace, I'll give a few examples and kind of dig in the kind of work that we're doing and what's the impact on the food donation side. So we are fortunate to be running the Recycling Works in Massachusetts program under contract to the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. And so this is a statewide free assistance program for businesses and institutions to not just comply with those waste bans for a range of, not just food waste, but a range of materials that are banned from disposal in Massachusetts, but also to do so in the most cost-effective ways possible and in ways that make good sense for whatever business we're serving. And the Recycling Works program has a very wide range of services, including a website, which is on here. I recommend you check out the lots of resources that are there. We have a call center that can help with over-the-phone assistance. We have the ability to go do direct one-on-one technical assistance. And then we do a lot of speaking like this to raise awareness and get people to understand what those opportunities are and other services. And one of the things that we've known that would be important as the food waste ban was coming into effect was to help people understand, well, how much food waste do I even have and what are the opportunities? And so we developed these food waste estimator tools, which are all available on the Recycling Works website for a wide range of industry sectors. And it has lots of different metrics and ways you can calculate this, or at least ballpark where you are. And this is really important to just understand the whole universe of what you might be able to tackle. And a good percentage of it often is donatable. We're finding in the supermarket sector, for example, it's a big range, but can be 20 or 30 or 40% or more even that's donatable out of all the food that might be currently be wasted. So this helps us understand what that opportunity might look like in a big picture and develop a strategy to address it. And one of the things that we noticed at around 2014 when the ban went into place in Massachusetts was that we didn't know all the best answers for what are the best ways to get food donation happening. And so we developed, we embarked on a best practices and stakeholder engagement process where we brought together larger food donors, food rescue organizations, as well as the public health officials and public health agents to build some consensus on what's the best way to do this. And the guidance itself is on our Wasted Food Solutions website, which I'll get to, but also on the Recycling Works website, and identified these couple of key areas where it's important to look for what the food donation opportunities are. We developed some fact sheets that I'll get to in a moment. It's important to document the right procedures and make sure storage and temperature management are really well monitored, and then to build good relationships with the partnering food rescue organizations and make sure that the transportation capabilities match up well with what the opportunities you have. So there's a lot more detail in the guidance documents themselves, but that's like an overview of what we found in that process. And a couple of examples of how we provided some help and seen this play out is one is the Boston Public Market is an entity that came to us for some help, and we were able to connect them with Love and Spoonfuls, which is a food rescue organization, and Food for Free, as well as the Greater Boston Food Bank. And just in their first month that they were open, they donated over 17,000 meals, and they're also composting 14 tons of food scraps. And that's a great example of that, going back to that hierarchy image where entities can take advantage of multiple steps in that hierarchy to have a really good comprehensive approach to addressing their wasted food. Another example is Fresh Market, is a supermarket in Connecticut that we've helped, and they were looking for help on setting up food donation, and we connected them with Food Share, which is a food bank there, and they started by just donating their baked goods, which is a pretty common approach to get started. And then they expanded to other foods, including produce, and they've now donated over 16 tons and 27,000 meals, and that's an ongoing program for them. Another thing that has happened, and a good tool for folks to look into, is that there's been a tremendous amount of innovation in this space in just these last couple of years. All of these logos that you see here are new technologies that have come online that are very, very helpful depending on what sector you're in. Means Database, Food for All, Spoiler Alert, Food Rescue US, all of those are technology-based platforms that help increase the amount of donation that are happening, and again, in these different sectors that are helping in a very professional and aided way to make those connections that facilitate much more food donation from happening. So I would recommend folks check out those resources to find ways to increase their food donation opportunities. Another innovation and sort of a challenge that we found in the best practices process was what to do about transportation. To keep food safe, to get food to where it needs to be in a timely manner, having the right transportation solution is often one of the key barriers to overcome, and it has provided opportunity for innovation as well. And Love and Spoonfuls is a great example of a food rescue organization that's based in Boston, but has now expanded to other areas of Massachusetts, and I believe they have aspirations to go even further, where they're really specializing in this transportation niche, and they don't even have a facility. They're taking food directly from donors to the recipient agencies, but partnering with food banks to help get more of that activity happening, and they can really get some of those things that have a shorter shelf life to the recipients much more quickly. Food banks themselves are also innovating quite a bit. We're very fortunate to have a project right now in Philadelphia, and we're partnering with PHILABUNDANCE, which is the food bank that serves a large portion of the greater Philly area and even into New Jersey. And they have a few different programs that they're really expanding their service. Their Grocers Against Hunger program, which is partnering with over 200 grocers in their area to really provide more comprehensive services. And they're also recognizing this increased opportunity for more food, and again that more nutritious food, but often comes in smaller batches. There's a lot of them. They're kind of random. They're not in predictable quantities, and so they're partnering with some of those technology apps that I was mentioning a slide or two before, and getting more of that activity to happen in a facilitated way where it might not even have to go to their facility. Another example of some innovation is City Harvest in New York City. Has also recognized some of that transportation niche needs, and they've got some refrigerated trucks now on the road that is helping address that issue, and they're moving a tremendous amount of food in the greater New York City area, and helping feed lots of hungry people and preventing a massive amount of food from being disposed. I think that those opportunities and the technologies that exist and the different solutions that are out there are really great, but we need opportunities like this webinar and many others to get that information in the hands of the people that can use it. So one of the strategies that we've used, in addition to doing lots of speaking like this, is also to partner with the various association groups that could benefit from this information. So we've worked with Rhode Island and Massachusetts and Connecticut and many others to provide presentations and help connect their members to these solutions, which we think is very important information sharing, so that this issue can be on the radar and for those members to understand what those opportunities are. So that's something that I'd be happy to talk more about and continue to do. This is an important part of getting the word out, I think. I mentioned a little while ago that part of that best practices involved creating legal fact sheets, and to do that, we partnered with the Harvard Food Law and Policy Clinic, and they certainly are the absolute experts on legal and policy analysis. And we talked to them because one of the types of questions that we were getting were a lot around liability, and we certainly weren't legal experts, so we turned to Harvard, and they produced these. And so they have liability protection that talks about the Good Samaritan Act at both the federal and state level, same for date labeling and tax incentives. And more recently, they've started producing ones even about getting food scraps to feed animals. And so the map here shows the number of states that these legal fact sheets have been produced for or are in production. For Pennsylvania and New Hampshire, I believe, are still, they're just about done. They're not quite done yet. But there are a number of states that have these resources available, and in a slide or two I'll get to where you can to find those. But I would really recommend, this is one of the most common questions we get from businesses of all sizes and types of what are the legal implications, and so there are some great resources that translate the law into some really just readable format that's helpful. Another form of information sharing that we found to be really important is working with the health officials. No food establishment wants to get in trouble with the health department, and so sharing this information and again having that common understanding has been really important. So we've engaged with these health agent associations across the region to really share this same message and answer questions and get a common understanding so that they can even be helping to facilitate even more of these donations from happening. So that's another strategy we've used that we think has been helpful and important. So I've covered a lot of resources. As an organization, we've been, again, very excited about the work that's been happening and want to share the experience and knowledge that we've gained in the work that we've been doing across the Northeast states and are now doing in many states around the country. And on our wasted food solutions are all those resources and many, many more, lots of case studies and tip sheets with some state-specific information, but also we have a toolbox that's really got information that's applicable no matter where you are. So I would recommend you check that out, and you can always give us a call if you have more questions after taking a look at those resources. So I hope that the information I've shared and those examples and the innovations that are happening have been helpful for the attendees here, and I look forward to the rest of the panel and answering questions in our question and answer period. So I thank you and NERC and NEWMOA for the time and opportunity to share today.
Thank you so much, Lorenzo. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Now it gives me pleasure to introduce our next panelists. We have Sherri Stevens and Nick Lachapelle from Hannaford Supermarkets. For the past 31 years, Sherri has served the customers and communities of Northern New England for Hannaford Supermarkets. She is the primary contact for Maine and New Hampshire community groups seeking sponsorship or donations from Hannaford Supermarkets, as well as for Hannaford associates working to build meaningful relationships with their local communities. She helps maintain Hannaford's charitable activities so that the focus is primarily on those programs that benefit child development and families, health and wellness, and food insecurity. Prior to this role, she managed consumer affairs for Hannaford's parent company, Delhaize America, and held a wide variety of other positions within the company, including roles in transportation, human resources, category management, and at the stores themselves. Nick Lachapelle has worked for Hannaford for the past 20 years and has held many roles within the company, such as fresh operations specialist, produce merchandising specialist, store manager, and department manager. Nick is currently the store manager in the Brunswick, Maine location and has been the Fresh Rescue resource for the state of Maine for the past year. In the Fresh Rescue role, Nick works closely with Good Shepherd Food Bank as well as Hannaford stores in the state of Maine to improve Hannaford's food donation processes and practices at the retail locations. And it's really a great privilege to have such experienced folks joining us from Hannaford, and we really appreciate their presentation and learning from people on the ground. Before I turn it over to them, I want to urge participants to post questions in the question box in the GoToWebinar control panel. We really want to hear your questions, and we will moderate sort of a Q&A at the end of this presentation. So Sherri and Nick, thanks.
Great, thank you, and we're really excited to be here today. So I work, as Terry mentioned, on the community relations side, and Nick is on the retail side. So we thought for this particular presentation, it would be really impactful for the two of us to kind of team up. So we'll go slide by slide through what we have here, and happy to answer any questions in the end. We're really particularly proud of this program and the impact that we've had on our communities with it. So with that said, I'll hand it over to Nick.
Awesome. Thank you, Sherri. So anytime we get to talk about food, it's always a great topic. So definitely really appreciate being here. So we're all food wasters, right? I mean, maybe we buy too much or prepare too much or order too much at our favorite restaurant. So we're going to talk a little bit about and share with you about Hannaford, how Hannaford handles good quality product that no longer really saleable to us. So who we partner with and where we get our guidance from. And before we do that, we're just going to talk a little bit about Hannaford Supermarkets and our roles. So Hannaford is 181 store chain based in Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, and New York. It's a full-service supermarket based out of Scarborough, Maine, employing about 25,000 customers, associates, focused on best-in-class fresh. So best-in-class fresh is important to our food donation story as we work to offer high-quality foods in our fresh departments. That often means that foods that don't meet our quality specs are not offered for sale. We need to find a way to move through them.
So being a part of our local communities is really important to us at Hannaford, and we invest heavily to keep communities in our 5 states healthy. As Terry mentioned, we're focused on 3 areas: health and wellness, child and family development, and hunger relief, which ties, the hunger relief rises to the top quite a bit in our organization because it's an easy tie to our business. Our standard logo is just the cornucopia itself, but a few years ago we created a separate Hannaford Helps logo that we use for the charitable giving side of our business. In this picture, one of our store associates is passing donated food to a local pantry representative. So Lorenzo did an amazing job detailing why reducing food waste is important, and it is a serious issue with significant environmental and economic impacts. So we have this massive issue of wasted food while there is real need right here in our own communities, people in our local communities who are struggling with food insecurity.
So Lorenzo actually touched on the EPA food recovery hierarchy pictured here a little earlier. So we use that and as a guide for ourselves as well. So I won't go into too much detail around that, but the shape of the hierarchy implies that you should get more of your recovered food to the step in the top triangle than the bottom, which with the bottom being sent to the landfill. So obviously source reduction, we work on operating our businesses to minimize any type of shrink we can, but it's part of our business. So anything we can do potentially after that item is no longer saleable in our stores, we go to feed the hungry. Food waste goes to animals, as well as industrial uses. We actually partner with a company called AgriCycle in the state of Maine, and we do a lot of composting as well. So aside from ensuring that we don't create the food waste, we put our focus on ensuring that all food is safe, edible, and we can't sell. Really goes to alleviate that hunger in those food pantries and those food banks that we partner with. So we don't do this alone, as we said. We partner with a number of experts in our food donation work. Feeding America is a big partner of ours, and their network of food banks and affiliates help us to get our donated food distributed safely and fairly throughout our footprint. So my store in Brunswick, Maine, we actually partner very closely with the Mid-Coast Hunger Prevention Program, which is actually literally a neighbor of my store. So we definitely partner closely with them.
So our food donation, sorry about that hesitation there. The food donation process for us works like this. Food that is no longer saleable in store for various reasons. It could be just a reset, a product reset in our stores, or any number of reasons that center store product or shelf-stable product is no longer saleable. That is sent back to our product recovery center in South Portland, Maine, from all of our stores. From there, the product recovery center distributes that food directly out to the food banks, where sometimes they're picking up at the product recovery center, or we're distributing it with our trucks. The distribution centers as well have product that may not have passed inspection, or for, again, other reasons. So they are, depending on the type of product it is, if it's shelf stable, they send it back to the product recovery center, or food banks may be coming to our distribution centers to pick up as well. If it's perishable food, we want to get it because we're looking at it from a timely manner. We're trying to get that food to those food banks and distribute it out into the communities as quickly as possible. Fresh rescued products from our stores don't go to the product recovery center. They're distributed directly from our retail stores right out into our local communities. So we've identified agencies around each one of our 181 stores to distribute these products out to, and they're arriving at our stores every morning, usually between 7 and 9 a.m. to pick up food, foods from those perimeter departments, the fresh departments, produce, deli, bakery, meat, seafood, dairy. All of those fresh products are distributed directly into the communities. So here's a visual of the fresh rescue process itself. Product is scanned out, put in boxes, and then distributed out, as I just explained, to the fresh rescue partners each morning from each store. It's a very successful model. The food is donated directly to the local agencies. The food banks provide training and technical support to the agencies, and we also support them with refrigeration and educational materials for clients, often through our in-store dietitian program. The food banks provide us with data that allows us to monitor the amount of food that we donate, and it helps us to identify opportunities within each store to make sure that we're donating all that we can. We also use that data to celebrate points of pride throughout our organization.
So the next slide that Sherri's going to be bringing up really tells the story, which this is a fantastic story that we're able to share. So in 2018, we recovered and donated over 25 million pounds of food across our network. So this is a 7% increase over the previous year. We continue to identify areas for improvement in this program and do not believe we've actually hit our ceiling yet in terms to 100% program execution in all stores. So the graph shows a positive trend that we've experienced really after formalizing our food donation program that rolled out in 2014, and definitely highlighting the tools and the practices we currently have. So how do we do it? We began with creating a mission statement, which you see in front of you. Safe and fair distribution of donated good quality foods 7 days per week to at-risk neighbors in our local communities, which is really definitely a strong statement to say.
We knew that in order to be successful, we would need strong partnerships and collaboration within and outside our business to build this program. So to kick it off, we gathered analysis and input from experts to support the work. We knew that we had an opportunity to make an impact in our communities, but we also knew that we certainly were not experts in how to do that. So reached out to, examples of that were Feeding America and our local food banks. We also had to create really strong internal and external partnerships. We needed engagement within our organization with retail leadership and operations and PR and communications to support us through that. The sustainability team is a huge partner in this process, and the tax department. External partnerships were, again, those food banks and their agency relations and food sourcing teams, and the hunger relief agencies local to our stores. And we had to create tools. It was important to have tools that create an overview of the program and support the touch points of the process itself. All of these tools are saved to our intranet portal for any associate to access and review at any time. So the tools themselves, because this is just a snapshot of some of them, or I'd say probably most of them. It's reference documents, letters to the agencies that we created early on, a why document, which is a common document that we have internally that explains the whys and hows of each program that we roll out, department posters in each stores for each department that kind of guide them through the process, standard practice training aids, a core tool within our organization that speak to the department breakdown, the program process, and scan out procedures. We have tip cards for associates. They're just small cards that they carry in their pockets that, again, give that overview of the program and the key points of it. Backroom posts so that our associates in the back room, at a quick glance, know who's picking up, what they're picking up, and when they're picking up. for products each morning, and ID cards for our associates in those back rooms to identify representatives from from the local agencies, and those are provided by the food bank. We also have a spreadsheet that we update regularly that shows us a snapshot of each of our stores and the current partners that we have. And, you know, as Nick mentioned earlier, it's a 7-day-a-week, 365-day program. So when we have gaps in that program, we work quickly to try to fill those within each community.
And here's just a few, I guess, visuals of some of our tools that we have. We have our monthly dashboard that we use to identify stores that are doing great work, as well as stores that are still have a little bit of work to do and have opportunities in their processes. So we kind of utilize those to as a place to go take a look at and see how we can fine-tune our process in each store. We'll get into a little bit more later, but there is a hierarchy that we use as well. Also on here, there's the daily donation and handling procedure, which is a simple flow chart for every associate that's working inside each fresh department to be able to follow and determine whether or not they can actually donate it, sell it, or discard the product. Obviously, like we've said, based off the EPA food hierarchy triangle, we want to be able to donate it first. So we definitely use this as a tool for everybody, as well as our monthly fresh rescue donations that we receive through our food banks that we partner with. You know, we have here just one that we get from the state of Maine, the Good Shepherd Food Bank, which kind of gives us pounds donated by every single store in our banner, and allows us to kind of figure out where we have opportunities and where we're doing really well, and it allows us to, I guess, celebrate where we're doing well, and as well kind of turn the needle up, you know, when we have to. So sustaining the program, you know, we kind of talked about this a little bit. There is a hierarchy we utilize. Community relations plays a large process in this, which Sherri is part of. She provides support to the below roles. When necessary, acts as a liaison between Hannaford and the food bank agencies. We have state fresh rescue sponsors, which make decisions that may impact labor and priorities in retail operations. State fresh rescue champions, which I am one of them. We refine action plans to ensure optimal success for fresh rescue programs in respective states. We have our district fresh rescue resources, who I work closely with to kind of get the information and give guidance and answer questions when necessary. And we have our store champions, which is usually a store manager. And then the store community stewards, which we have one person or two people inside every store that, you know, kind of partners inside their store as a champion and kind of goes around and helps people and guides them and monitors the program. So to continually reinforce the program and to motivate our associates to bring the program to the fullest potential, we really had to create these within each of our 5 states.
So we built the infrastructure for a sustainable program, and we also understand that to keep that fresh and sustain, we have to keep the conversation going within our organization. So we keep our executive team engaged by sharing results with them. We look for opportunities continuously in this program using the tools that Nick mentioned earlier. And we motivate ourselves. We set a corporate goal to cut our food waste in half by 2030. We take time to celebrate the milestones and successes of the program. And we create team building and community events. It's not uncommon for our store associates to be at the food banks volunteering or gleaning from gardens in their local communities that serve or support hunger relief. We do monthly progress reports. Nick showed you a visual of those earlier. Monthly updates for the store community boards. So we're posting our results on the community boards on a monthly basis. We do huddles in our stores to talk about the program. Our experience, so we want every associate in our organization to have a basic understanding of our food donation program. Our experience has been that once they understand it and the reasons for it, they're inspired and motivated to participate in the work. We see that over and over again. So having all hands on deck and everybody coming to the plate to support the program has helped to make it very successful. And there are benefits, so many benefits with this program. The first bullet that we have here is the most important benefit of all. We're feeding hungry people. And I have that in orange because orange is the color for hunger awareness in the U.S. We've strengthened relationships with our local communities in a huge way through this program, and created greater awareness of food insecurity both within our organization and externally as we talk about our food donation program and the reasons for it. And we know that our customers care and expect corporate responsibility from us, and they are voicing to us that we are meeting their expectations through this program. Associate morale and retention, we know that we're impacting that. Our associates are voicing a huge sense of pride for this program, and so we know that we're impacting their decision to work for our company through that. Waste reduction, besides better inventory management and tactics to avoid shrink, donating is the best option to prevent good quality food from becoming wasted. Vermont and Mass have already implemented food waste bans, so donating reduces our costs and keeps us compliant. And positive business impact, little or no incremental labor. It's a quick, simple decision for those associates in the produce department as they're culling that produce. Would you eat that apple? If you would, it goes in the box for the donation. If not, it would go to compost, or not compost, animals. They follow the hierarchy for it. And the cost savings, we've experienced $1 million annually waste cost avoided through avoiding waste cost, $1 million. And there are tax benefits. Because there is a limit on the amount of the deduction, we reach that pretty quickly. So this doesn't really end up being a huge factor for us, nor was it a motivator for us to do this program.
So with that, we'll just say thank you for having us. We really appreciate being here and being able to present for this. And wanted to kind of call out that we are happy to share this information and our learnings with any organization that was looking to do this. It's definitely been very valuable for us here at Hannaford, and definitely are willing to share anything we can do to help you out or anyone else out that might be looking to do this as well.
Thank you so much, Sherri and Lorenzo and Nick. We have a question that one of the participants has raised. I know I have some questions. I hope maybe Lynn, you've got some questions. But to begin with, and I think this is more for you, Sherri and Nick, can you share more about ongoing education with employees to ensure maximum donation?
So I can share.
Go ahead.
I can share. Essentially, we actually partner with a portion of the corporate office called the CAE team. We do huddles, every week, essentially. And one of the topics that we bring up, at least periodically, I'd say every other month or so, has been fresh rescue or food donation processes. So we do that as a company, and that gets that message out there to all the associates that join in our huddles on those times, as well as, like I said, that community steward who's in the store as part of that hierarchy that we discussed is going around and kind of coaching people on that, educating people on the processes. We have a lot of standards that allow us to just kind of print it off and hand it out to people and allow them to talk through it. So it is a constant thing. Where it's a 7-day-a-week program, it really is something we talk about almost every single day.
Thanks, Nick. Sherri, did you want to add anything, or Lorenzo?
Yeah, just one quick little point is we actually, because we are so driven by process within our organization, we actually created standard practices, standard practice training aids. So there are monthly standard practice training aids that steward takes and follows processes where he's walking through departments on a monthly basis, checking in, reminding each department of the aids that support this program. And then there's an annual store walk that comes up every January that all with a much more robust review of the program for all store associates. So we built that in to make sure that it was done consistently and ongoing for the program.
Okay, thank you. We have two questions that are kind of related. One is, do the organizations that take time to set aside food for rescue see any reduction/prevention of food from being wasted because they are more aware of what is being captured for rescue and other management methods? And how has Hannaford's worked to reduce the quantity of food they don't sell to minimize the amount of excess food?
Yeah, I would say at this point in time, we're actually experiencing record-setting shrink numbers for our organization. It's really not seeing any major, I guess, shrink issues at our store based off of those numbers we're seeing, or through the company even. We're actually experiencing great results in that aspect. Really what we're doing is more or less making sure that food hierarchy is being followed. And that's allowing us to, I guess, make better decisions and make sure that we're putting that food aside for food banks and pantries versus ensuring that it's not going to the waste stream. That's really our major focus at this point in time.
Yeah, as we continue to hone our shrink, which will always be a focus for us in the organization, we're not seeing that impact this program. If anything, as the graph showed through the deck early on, we continue to see those numbers go up as we make sure that we're donating everything that we possibly can. So while shrink is going down, the donation numbers are going up.
So when you say shrink, that means shrinking the amount of excess food that isn't sold.
Yeah, it's essentially, I guess what would be food waste, at that point in time. But the majority of it is going to our food pantries versus, potentially going in the landfill, which is, again, the whole goal of the fresh rescue work. So.
Yep.
Lorenzo, do you want to add anything about, source reduction for food waste?
Sure. I think that it's, in our experience at least, it's been pretty common when working with hundreds and hundreds of businesses that we've worked with that when they start on one of the strategies, using donation as an example here, of just really paying attention to what is being wasted and having a process, as the superstars Sherri and Nick are doing at Hannaford's, of separating and actually seeing what it is. It opens up lots of opportunities across the hierarchy, and especially for prevention. I think that seeing what's there and employing those shrink strategies that Sherri and Nick were talking about, and many others, just help illuminate the opportunity to prevent waste from happening in the first place, and whether it's changing storage or ordering practices, prep practices, meal prep, or using some of those technology tools that I was mentioning to aid them in measuring and tracking that. All of those become much more clear oftentimes when a strategy like donation is employed. And it doesn't mean that less donation is happening, like Sherri and Nick have mentioned. It just means really taking a deeper dive and looking at it more closely. And sometimes it just becomes more obvious that there are those opportunities. And so in our experience, we've definitely seen prevention being driven by those other types of activities.
Thank you. Next question is there a means of downloading this presentation from the Hannaford website? And I've switched to the NEWMOA website where we have posted these presentations, and we will be posting probably in the next few days the recording of this webinar. Lynn, are you planning to post this as well on your website?
Yes, we will, as well as the recording.
Okay, and so we can let people know where that is. Sherri or Nick, have you posted this on your website for the Hannaford website?
No, we haven't.
Okay. All right. Well, so now you know where you can find it in the NEWMOA website or the NERC website. That's where. And I don't know, Lorenzo, you could post it on the CET website if you wanted.
Yeah, we can look into like linking to yours, so that's all in one spot, but we can point to it. I'd be happy to work on that.
Okay, great. Another question that came in, can Hannafords talk more about their diversion for animal feed and composting? Is it occurring at all stores?
So the composting, I guess it really depends on proximity to AgriCycle, at least for the state of Maine. Some of the more rural areas that may not have the company being willing to drive there, maybe doing more of the pig farming. We have donations that we sign with local farmers that they come pick it up daily, sometimes every other day, and that's why we utilize that as part of our process, because it eliminates food waste again going into the waste stream. So if you want to touch more on that.
Yeah, it's one or the other or both options in all stores, I would say.
And I'll just add that that's pretty common, I think, especially with chains that have a significant footprint over a large geography, that what is truly food scraps and food waste that needs to go to either composting, anaerobic digestion, or animal feed. It doesn't travel very far, and so it's a matter of plugging into the locally available infrastructure that makes the most sense for the particular generator and particular location. So many chains have multiple solutions based on what's available.
And I will say that we do get several actual pig farmers or local farmers that come to the store on many occasions and just ask if they can do that. And by having the tool that's there with our food donation agreement that we're able to sign with them, we kind of are able to help them out, and it helps us out at the same time.
Okay, one of our participants asks, they would really like to have the flow chart for various departments. Is that possible? And I assume what they mean by that is, as a separate document, perhaps, because they can get what you presented, but it sounds like they're looking at something more than what they can see on the slides.
We are happy to share any of these tools with anyone. So if you want to forward contact information to me, I can pop that in the mail to them, or if you want to share my contact information out, Terry, I'm happy to pop that in the mail to anyone.
Okay, thank you. If you send me say a PDF of that, we could post that on our website as well.
Okay, yep, I will do that.
Okay, thanks. Another question is, do you audit the quality of foods donated to ensure that you are donating quality, healthy, meal-building foods to your community? I know pantries and food banks sometimes struggle with getting surplus breads and pastries from grocers rather than protein and nutrient-dense foods they would prefer.
So we definitely do. One of the tools that we showed on the slideshow was a spreadsheet we get from Good Shepherd Food Banks, which is one of the food banks that we partner with locally. You can see on that spreadsheet there's actually some highlighted red columns that actually are showing the bakery area. So what we're doing is we're utilizing those spreadsheets and getting actual stores to take a look at their other departments as well, and focusing more on the produce and saving the produce calls throughout the day, as well as dairy. We pull dairy 2 days before it goes out of code, so we can still donate it, as well as focusing on freezing meat items before it goes out of code. That's really what we're doing to try to turn that up. And I don't think we're stopping donating baked goods, but it is something we're trying to focus on, all the healthier items that are available to us to be able to donate to those areas.
And I would just add that we stress continuously in this organization that our food donation program is not a waste diversion program. So we encourage our associates to make careful decisions. And again, using that filter, would you eat it? Is it good quality food, and would you eat it? And Nick touching on that best in class earlier on in the slides was the purpose that we called that out is that's often what's happening is our consumers have a very high demand of quality, high quality demand when they walk into our stores to buy product, and we understand that and want to offer that to them. So the average customer will not pick an apple that might have a small nick in it. Nothing wrong with that apple. And so getting that, if we're culling products like that, getting that into the hands of people in our communities that could that are struggling with food insecurity is really important. But being careful not to be putting food out there that has a short life to it or is not consumable. That's not acceptable.
I would add, I'll point to one of the resources that are available on the Recycling Works website at recyclingworksma.com/donate. That's where all the best practice information is, and there's a couple things there that really help, I think, make sure that quality and food safety are front of mind. There's sort of a templated agreement between a recipient organization and a donor that helps make sure that there's a shared understanding of what kinds of food products are acceptable and can be handled, as well as some transportation and just sort of food log examples, so that there's good record keeping and tracking of what's being provided for donation, that helps make sure that the right kinds of material, food products are being donated, and that there's some quality assurance there. So those are freely available resources and sort of template documents that can be just downloaded and used.
Hey, Lorenzo, if you want to navigate there, I can make you the presenter, and you can show those resources while we're dealing with some of these final questions that people have posted. Okay?
Sure.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
So maybe this is a quick question. If you haven't, what considerations does Hannaford take to prevent meat-contaminated food from being fed to pigs, and what happens to meat-contaminated waste if not going to AgriCycle?
So we also partner with an agency, at least in the state of Maine, called Baker Commodities, who do a lot of our rendering, and they handle most of the meat items.
Okay.
Outside of composting. So
you should be able to see now the resources that Lorenzo mentioned.
Yep, our food donation page is up, and down here is some labeling document examples, and we've got here the agreement template and the transportation log, and there's lots of other resources on here as well, including the legal fact sheets. This is the Massachusetts example, so there's lots here, and that hopefully everybody can see the URL at the top, and you're welcome to go use it, no matter where you are.
Thanks, Lorenzo. One final question. I hope we can spend a minute.
Can Lynn butt in for a second?
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
Lorenzo, do you have on your website the state organizations that the Hannaford people referred to about, I apologize, it was a new phrase to me, but it was like the state level rescue associations. I'm sure I'm butchering what Nick referred to, but I hadn't heard of those before. Of course, I'm not helping because I'm getting the name wrong, but maybe Nick could chime in and correct. But I'm wondering how we would find out about those.
Are you talking about the hierarchy we discussed?
Well, you referred to being personally involved with a state resource group and a local. So first of all, what were they actually called?
So that's more internally here at Hannaford than anything, but it's just the hierarchy we've established to kind of keep this topic going and keep it fresh and keep driving the needle a little bit further. So
thanks for that clarification.
Okay, one final question that someone posted. Do you see these programs growing in the future? And if so, what resources would you need to grow them?
The Fresh Rescue, our food donation program growing?
I assume so, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we definitely do not feel that we've hit the ceiling on this program. First of all, we continue to add offerings in our stores. Right now we're exploring, we have kitchen prepared foods, and we've had, like, for example, the rotisserie chickens, and we can donate those if we put them through a cooling, what's it called, Nick? Cooling process.
Essentially, they get chilled, cooled down to the proper temperature. And if they go out of date, we'll actually freeze them and donate them to pantries. So.
All right. So we're looking at, as we continue to add offerings in our stores, we are always looking at whether or not we can donate foods from those offerings if that's available. And again, diving deep within each department continuously and educating our associates on and to use the tools and make sure that they're donating all that they can. In 2018, that was a 7% increase. That's been pretty much after the first year we had a significant increase, but we've seen a really steady trend upward consistently, and I do expect to see that over the next few years.
Yeah, I would agree. I think just beginning this work a year ago, I think we've got a lot more work to do. I mean, we've seen 25 million pounds as of 2018. I think we can improve upon that and continue to grow on it. We're expanding on stores periodically, so I mean that just only continues to grow that the pounds donated as well. So I think there's definitely some more work to do, and we're going to continue to push along for it.
I would just add on that I think that's a very another common theme that we're hearing across the different businesses we work with in a variety of sectors, that engaging in donation usually unveils additional opportunities, and I think that we're seeing this across various sectors as well. That I think many supermarkets have been doing some donation for a long time, and the example that the folks from Hannaford just shared of how much growth there's been, we're seeing in many different supermarkets as well as other types of food businesses. And I think that this is kind of the tip of the iceberg, and there's a lot of opportunity to get a lot more good, healthy, nutritious food into the hands of those who need it most.
I think we've run out of time, sorry, I think we didn't get to every single question. I think we covered a lot of the topics that we did get questions on. Again, I want to thank all of our presenters, Lorenzo, Nick, and Sherri. This was excellent, and I want to thank NERC for partnering with us on this webinar and helping to plan the webinar. And please avail yourself of all the resources that we've been showing you today, and we want to wish everyone on the call all the best with all your food donation activities. Thank you.
Really happy to have participated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been great.